it's a little more permanent when you cut your fucking nuts off. You can't just fucking take the makeup off. A dude on our question and answer, we have a question and answer group. It's $1 if you join the YouTube membership. We put over 10 hours of content up. And one of those things we do pulling the thread. Scully and I, we just recorded 2.5 hours. Amanda and I, we do a question and answer where people can write in and we just answer their stuff. And a lot of it's just homesteading and business stuff. But there's a lot there. And one of the questions that has stuck with me, I saw somebody asked, what are 3 things I should teach my young kids growing up? He's like, I know what to teach them, but I'm just curious what your perspective on that is, what you would say. And that really stuck with me. I don't know why. I don't know why that particular out of all the questions has stayed with me. And I'm trying to figure out how to say or what to say, right? I want to say something that's different than all the other shit everybody says. And it leads to this. And it came up while we were talking on video 2, Scully and I today. And what it is teach your kids to be tough. Teach your kids that when it hurts, that doesn't mean they are hurt, right? Just because it hurts doesn't mean you're hurt. We use the wrong words for things. We have dumbed down society and we rewrite the definitions. And that's how we change and we get people to do things. Because when you hear something said, we have different definitions from what somebody 10 years, 20 years younger than us using the same word. And what that word should be, it shouldn't be hurt. It should be, just because it hurts, it doesn't mean you're injured, right? When you get down, don't pick them up when they fall down. Let them pick themselves up. Let them cry. Don't rush to them and coddle them. If they are injured, that is different. And what level of injury, right? When I was a kid, we used to ride BMX bikes literally from the time the sun came up till the time the sun came down, and we'd be riding all the way back in the dark. And we'd be going out and making jumps. We're making ramps to jump over 4 55-gallon trash cans. And inevitably, somebody always crashes. I had stitches here. I had stitches here. I've had stitches here. I've had 20 sets of sutures, right? Usually we didn't go home. We kept doing it. And when we got home, mom's like, oh my God, you need stitches, right? I've been to the doctor where they're like, we can't put stitches in this. It's too late. We need to leave it open. We can put some ointment, like that kind of shit, right? Society as a whole is weaker. Why is that? Part of that is by design, and part of that is just because we coddle and we build weak people, and it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. And then the other half of it is by design, right? It's what you intake. It's what's put into you. Testosterone is down, estrogen is up. Is that by design or is that by accident? It's both. It really is both, right? So people are just calibrated so low. Don't let your kids quit. That would be the third one, right? Don't let your kids quit. We let our kids stop when things get difficult. When things hurt, we allow them to stop. And they build this in their mind. Hurt means injured to them, but even though they're using the same word. So as soon as things get tough, they stop. And they never experience toughness because they know what that threshold is and they never want to reach that threshold again. So we're breeding weak kids, we're allowing them to be weak, and then we're pacifying them. Why would your government want weak people? Because if you're weak, you need to rely on somebody. And who are you going to rely on? If you are weak, your neighbor is not going to be there to help you all the time. But the government is, because they're going to give you some stuff. Why would they do that? Because you're going to vote in a certain way. You're going to conform. You're going to be easy to control. So it's just weakness, right? When the kid falls down and he's crying and screaming, we pick him up. So then the kid becomes weak because he didn't pick himself back up. We brush him off, and the little bit of blood that's there, we now put a bunch of goo and ointment and we bandage it up and we take him home and give him a shower. The kid never learns that with splinters in his hands or bloody hands and bloody knees, he can continue to do what he was doing and just have a great time, right? When we were kids and we would skin our knees, we just wanted to keep going, right? Now, and I don't know why this is. Maybe it's because dad's not there to go, hey, let him be, right? We pick him up. But I think the other part of it too is we want the screaming and the crying to end, so we pick them up. Do we pick them up to coddle them, or do we pick them up to quiet them? And I think it's more to quiet them than it actually is to coddle them. And it just builds on and it builds on and it builds on. And generation after generation, we breed and create weak kids. And if you look now, right, you have, you ever think they could take down a sitting president? Did you ever think that they could silence and just take away the ability for a president to speak, right? He can't speak in the news. He can't speak on social media, right? Okay. You didn't like him? That's fine. So who was next? What was next, right? Alex Jones. Crazy ass Alex Jones, right? Yet here it is, the things he's saying, one by one by one, more and more, even yesterday, right? What did he say? JP Morgan is supporting the pedophiles in Epstein Island, right? They're allowing it. Come to find out, lo and behold, that's exactly what just happened. And the U.S. District Attorney for the Virgin Islands was filing a lawsuit against JP Morgan. And what happened the next day? President of the United States, Biden, goes over there and she is relieved of duty. So there will not be a lawsuit or an investigation against JP Morgan. Weird, right? Okay. So you have the President of the United States, Trump. You have Alex Jones, the crazy man. Okay. You didn't like either of those guys. Get it. But then you have who? You have Tate. Okay. You didn't like what Tate was saying. And then you have who else? Now they're going after Jordan Peterson. They're just chipping away, right? What you need to realize, you don't like any of those guys? Okay. What do you say that is unpopular? Do you say anything that is unpopular, or do you only say the easy shit, right? Because while they take those dudes down, and the people you thought they could never remove, they've proven now that they can and it's doable. What that means is you are only 2 to 3 years downstream from those people that you didn't agree with. What do you say that is unpopular? What do you say face to face with people that you won't say out at public? What do you say face to face to whoever it is you're saying it to that you won't say at church or at school or wherever that is? Because that's what that means. They start with the big one and then they get down to the minuscule, right? They get down to the little guys, the minutia of it. I was just doing my job. I didn't know they were putting where they were taking those Jews. I didn't know. Cops that allowed all the riots, I was just doing my job. The cops that enforced the vaccines, the cops that enforced the mandates. Well, I have kids, right? I have a mortgage. I was just doing my job. That's where this is all headed. That's where every fucking bit of this is headed. So, teach your kids that just because they're fucking hurt, that doesn't injured and hurt are not the same thing. Use real words. Teach your kids business and financial vocabulary, because poor people don't know that. They don't know what's in those contracts. They don't know what any of that shit is, right? Teach them to be strong. Teach them to fucking stand up. Teach them that it's okay to bleed. Teach them that they have to go through hard things, because the hard things set them up for the next hard thing. They will always fall if they're allowed to stop when things get hard. And the more you do hard things, the easier they become. It's just like when you started riding a bike. If your father, or maybe it's your mom, whoever it was that was teaching you to ride a bike that first time you fell, if they'd have let you fucking just fall and that was the end of it, nobody'd be able to ride a bike. But now that you can ride a bike, or you can swim, or whatever it is you do, you could go 20 years and fucking just still be able to do that. And that's how life is. Build tough fucking children. Build responsible children. Teach them what is wrong and right on your fucking views and your morals, and make them fucking earn their money. Make them earn their keep. If your kid's 5 years old, that little motherfucker can play a video game. I promise you, he or she can do her laundry, right? She doesn't live in your house for free. She gets an allowance, and when she wants to do things, or he wants to do things, set it up and show them what the cost is. Show them what the fucking dollar was worth last year as opposed to this year. Maybe they want to amass more of them, or maybe they want to put it in a vehicle that will become more money when you convert it back into cash, right? Nobody's teaching your kids that, especially the fucking schools. They're teaching them that they can cut their fucking wiener off, or they can do all kinds of crazy shit, right? Maybe that is just, maybe that's today's version of what goth was 90 years, in the 90s. But 90s, 2000s, whenever the fuck goth was, right? But it's a little more permanent when you cut your fucking nuts off. You can't just fucking take the makeup off. When people were putting Elmer's glue and egg whites to make mohawks, yeah, sometimes they had to cut that mohawk off to get rid of it quickly, and then the hair would grow back. But the other shit that they're doing now, and why is that? Why is that the club they're in? and not the fucking club that you want them in. It's because we don't raise our kids. We silence them. When they fall, we pick them up. When they cry, we pacify them. We don't even make them do what's expected of them out in public. Instead, we give them the pacifier, and then they're watching shit, and we don't even half the time know what it is they're watching. All the crazy shit Disney's doing, but you're still fucking putting your kid in front of fucking Disney. So if you think your kids are fucked up, that's your fault. If my kids are fucked up, that's my fault. If we don't like what the things our kids are saying, we need to evaluate who is programming our kids, because it's all programming them. You have till age 7, and after 7, you really have set the course of the kid's life, and it can't be changed. There are those exceptions, but for the most part, we send our kids, and this is back to that whole, you hate Andrew Tate because he's a misogynist, right? Women should go get a job, and women shouldn't stay in the house, and men shouldn't make all the money, and women should raise the kids. Instead, we told the woman she should leave the house because she's not part of the family, she doesn't contribute to the family. And what does that do? Now we need a babysitter. Who's that babysitter? Public education. But let's call it what it really is, right? It's not public school, it's government school. So we send our kids to people who hate our way of life, and then we wonder why our kids fucking come back hating us. It's because liberals don't have kids. Liberals have your kids. And when I say liberal, I don't mean liberal in the way you think of it today, right? The way you have it programmed into your head, because vocabulary has been changed. All of your politicians in government have all been moved to the left. Your Republicans, the people you think of as Republicans, yeah, you're a registered Republican. Those people you see as your people, those are Obama era Democrats. Everything has been shifted to the left. They are all for each other. They are not for fucking you. And in fact, they hate you on a one-to-one basis. You would never be allowed into any of the places that they go. There's a few of them that you could actually interact with, right? Thomas Massey. You could go and actually speak to him, shake his hand, and you'd be like, that's a real dude. He lives out in the middle of fucking nowhere. He homeschools his kids. They live completely off the grid. He grows his own chickens. Met him several times. For the most part, though, most of those people, they fucking hate you and everything about you, but they have sold you, somehow they've sold you this idea that you're on their team and they're fucking your representatives. They are not. They are for themselves. And they say different things when the camera's going, and just like the world of wrestling, they're all fucking partying together. So remove yourself from that. And it starts with raising strong kids. It starts with doing the difficult things that we don't want to do, right? We want to hand them the iPad. We want to hand them the phone because it's the pacifier. And half the time, you don't even know what it is they're watching. And when you think they do, it's still not what you thought it was half the time. So do the difficult shit. Raise the kids that you want to take care of you in your older days, right? We just put our old people in homes and let them die now. We don't have the grandparents helping to raise the kids so that the parents can go out and work, right? Because there's not a farm or a homestead anymore, right? We don't have a bunch of kids for that anymore. We used to have, the Amish have, what do they say? Kid's not profitable until he's 13 years old. The Amish had tons of kids because they needed the labor, but then they had the legacy and the family moved on, right? And you had those older folks take care of them while the younger people were still working. That doesn't happen anymore. Welfare, right? Welfare is now the state. It's not the church. It's not the family members. And that's how they get these people to vote and do the things and go along with the crazy wacko shit, because they're operating on the easy. They were picked up when they skinned their knee. They never were allowed to bleed and continue on. They never, as soon as they hurt and things got tough, they associated that with injury. And now you are calibrated, those people are calibrated so low that they will just look to the government to keep them alive. And that's what the government does. It keeps them alive so that they'll vote and do whatever they want. Meanwhile, those people tax everybody and tax and tax and tax. And then they steal part of that money and they build their private clubs and their private islands that you're not a fucking part of. So have those conversations. Take this video and show it to one person, and maybe they'll show it to one other person. But have those conversations in person, because the government wants you to believe that what you're saying is wrong, and they want you to believe that you're crazy and nobody else is saying that. And until you talk face to face, you're never going to realize that there's more of you than there are of them. The crazy is controlled by the few. And what you want to do and what you think would be good for you, that's exactly what your wealthy and elite are doing, and they're preventing you from doing it. So we no longer mind because they no longer matter.